Hello, so here it is. Cheers and Mazel Tov, especially. Right now, it is still Sabbath, it is a Sunday. Remember, I'm observing both days. So a Sabbath to me is lasts from Friday sunset to Sunday sunset. That is what a Sabbath is in my case. This is how I am observing it. And the take of Judaism on Sabbaths is that you shouldn't do anything that is deemed as creative. That includes most things like cooking, engaging in financial transactions and things like that. Even writing, if you write, you're not allowed to write two letters. Okay, you're not allowed to write. But I'm doing things a little bit differently. To me, a Sabbath is not engaging in anything of a mercantile nature. So if I'm hungry, I may go and buy some food on a Sabbath. But I should avoid that, I guess. If I'm hungry, that's a necessity, so I am going to do it. But in no way am I going to engage in things that will bring income. Okay, so that's what I'm not doing. I'm not doing anything of a commercial nature. I am writing, I am reading, I am doing creative stuff in a Sabbath, especially when those things are of a spiritual nature and they are disseminating ideas, stuff that is pro bono, things like that. If I am to help another person, if I am to save a life, if I am to help another being, I will do it in a Sabbath. I will engage in stuff of a spiritual nature in a Sabbath. So now it is a Sabbath. So yeah. We're still in the middle of the Sabbath. It's a Sunday. So I guess doing stuff of a philosophical nature is something that should be praised for a Sabbath, as far as I am concerned. This presentation is called The Mysterious Feminine. Okay, that is the title of the presentation. And I'm it's sort of esoteric. Don't worry, I'm not disclosing anything that is confidential, and I'm not invading anybody's privacy. I'm not being disrespectful. It is something that may be of interest to some of you, especially gentlemen, but females too. So let's get to work. Let's delve into it. The mysterious feminine. Five sections on this presentation. It is a lecture mostly. I don't know if I'm going to fill 1 hour, but I hope it will get close. I mean, if I'm talking about something, it must be substantial. So yeah, I hope it's going to get closer to 1 hour. I will talk to you about anima and animus, in-depth concepts in Jungian psychology. Concepts that I haven't covered previously in my Carl Jung lecture. I'm going to touch on the topic of fascination, which I did cover in my Carl Jung lecture, but I will refresh your memory onto this. I'm going to talk to you in chapter 3 or section 3. Remember, I'm not talking extensively, I'm talking intensively. So in section 3, I'm talking to you about exhibitionism. Well, maybe exhibitionism is somewhat of a peculiar term, a peculiar terminology, so I'm calling it to exhibit. Exhibitionism may be a condition that is pathological, and that's not my intention. That's not the intended meaning. In section 4, I'm talking to you about marriage, and I will be explaining to you some of the ethics of marriage and being married, and more comprehensively, I will give you a universal definition of what marriage is. Or it's not. I'm not an authority in this. I'm not a rabbi. I am sort of a guru, but I'm not. I'm not basically boasting about being a guru. I'm not. The right terminology is. I'm not being too proud. I'm not. I am not showing off with being a guru. I am not boasting off. So, and I'm definitely not a moral authority. I have my own mishaps in my existence, but I am somewhat of an authority in knowledge and in teaching. So I guess do as I say, don't do as I sometimes do. Okay, so that refers to some of my demeanors. Okay, so don't do as I sometimes do. Do as I say, and do as I teach you, and try to take in what I say and what I teach. Okay, so in section 5, the last section, I'll talk to you about testosterone. What is testosterone? Well, that's more of a rhetorical question. We all have an intuition about what testosterone is, but I hope it will become plain and obvious why I'm asking that question when we get to section 5. But let's commence with the beginning. Let's commence with the beginning and start from section 1. So here it is, Anima Animus, section 1, concepts, in-depth concepts in Jungian psychology. Okay, so the anima is a facet of the human psyche that encompasses goodness and sensitivity. They are encompassing goodness and sensitivity in ourselves, the goodness that we hold within ourselves, the more sensitive side, The animus encompasses our strength. Okay, that strength, that is the warrior side. That is the power that we hold within ourselves. The anima is chakral. Yes. So it may be located in the chest, or it may be located in the third eye. Okay, that is the anima. The anima is always chakral. Okay, that is the phenomenon. The animus is hormonal. Okay, so it is said that you shouldn't waste seed. Okay, seed should not be wasted. In the same fashion, the hormonal apparatus in the human male has a very in the human in general, because okay, so females are exhibiting the animus too. So the hormonal apparatus in the human is a very complex creation. It is connected to the lymphatic system. And well, seed should not be wasted. And in general, we shouldn't do anything that sort of interferes with the hormonal apparatus, okay? Because that is strength, and that's what that's what keeps us on our feet, basically. So these are the two in-depth concepts in Jungian psychology that I wanted to talk to you about. I'm avoiding saying that one of them is the masculine principle, the other one is the feminine principle, even though that is how they are presented usually. So I haven't said anything about that or anything like that. And I'm resting here. I think I said enough on this topic. Section 2, fascination. I'm going very fast through this section, so I'm not sure if I will fill 1 hour. I guess it will be close to 20 minutes or half an hour eventually. So, section 2, fascination. Fascination is one phenomenological quality that distinguishes the female animal, the human female animal, to the male animal in the human being. So, fascination towards glitzy stuff, shiny stuff, things like that. Well, that is something that distinguishes a woman from a man. Okay, so in women, fascination is something that is highly developed, much more than it is in a human male. Okay, and the reason for that, as I previously lectured in the Carl Jung lecture, the reason for fascination is the umbilical cord and the special relationship that women have to children, okay, due to the spiritual umbilical cord relationship, okay? So kids definitely have a fascination, whether they are boys or girls. They are definitely fascinated by things like sports, actors, cars, toys, weapons, or games. These are things that kids are fascinated with, and due to the spiritual relationship between females and kids, well, this will percolate. Okay, so is this the right terminology? This will percolate up the spiritual chain to females. And well, females will gather a fascination. Okay, so this is not nurtured, this is actually instinct. Okay, so in anthropology, in cultural anthropology, we often make distinctions between what is a natural given and what is constructed by society. That's the distinction between nature and nurture. Well, fascination is instinct in females. I know girls are trained to play with dolls. Girls are often encouraged to play with dolls. In a similar fashion, girls wear long hair, and guys, men wear short hair. So there exist physical traits that are emphasized in a female. There exist psychological traits that are emphasized in a female. But motherly instincts and the umbilical cord spiritual relationship, well, these are instinctual, they are not nurtured. So fascination is something that is highly emphasized in the female animal, and it's always even narcissism. I know there's talks online about narcissism these days. I think that's a constructed concept. I don't think that's relevant to psychology, or I don't even think that's pathological in any way. Of course, it should be discouraged. We should refrain ourselves from looking in the mirror too much, whether we're males or females. That's the same thing. We should not look in the mirror. I know in some witchcraft rituals there exists the mirror ritual. Well, that's extremely pathological. That is very sick. The mirror ritual is sick in witchcraft. That is very, very unhealthy. But the fascination that females have with glitz, with shiny stuff, with glamour, with themselves, ultimately, and with things that shine, well, that has to do with the umbilical cord and the relationship that females have with children. Section 3 out of 5, to exhibit. This is highly interesting stuff. I don't think anybody has said this before, though it may appear as common knowledge to some of us. Some of us that deal with myeutics in particular, people that deal with myeutics and the art of nurturing, or the art of raising children. Well, this type of people may be aware of what I'm saying here. To exhibit. So females, this is, in a way, this is related to the previous section. So females have a desire to exhibit themselves. Okay? So again, this is instinctual. This doesn't have to do in any way with nurturing. This is not a constructed attitude. This is not developed by society. This is not developed by the beauty standards that circulate in a time and space. This is instinctual. This is pure instinct. This is the instinct that a female has to exhibit herself. Okay? And, well, I touched on this previously on the table of contents. So I said this is not the same thing as exhibitionism. Okay? You shouldn't think about this as exhibitionism. Exhibitionism is a pathological condition that manifests in both men and women in some psychiatric conditions. To exhibit oneself is something else, and it is an attitude, and females have this trait. This is present in females in their fertile stage. Okay, so you shouldn't think about small kids and you shouldn't think about old ladies. Okay, to an old woman, it is equally likely. To an old woman, it is basically independent of her whether she exhibits herself or not. Usually older ladies cover themselves or wear long skirts, or they wear scarves in some cultures. In some cultures it is customary for an older woman to wear a scarf. Okay? So we're talking about females in the fertile stage of their ovulation. In case you don't understand what that means, don't worry too much about it. Okay? So, females in their fertile stage do have this tendency, the tendency to exhibit themselves. I haven't mentioned this and I must say it here because it is important. So, many religious people, mostly religious people, but it is a common attitude. They encourage females to cover themselves. Okay, they encourage long skirts and attires that don't reveal too much. That is mostly a religious attitude, but not restricted to religion as such. The reason for this is that when exhibiting oneself, well, you create bonds, okay? You create affectionate bonds, and those bonds may be of a mischievous nature. Those bonds may be bad. Okay? So, as a man, when you see something, you have two options. You look or you look away. Okay? So, I guess the attitude that should be deployed is looking away, because that is, so to exhibit, well, that's part of the beast within us, to use a framework that pertains to Judaism mostly. Well, this type of exhibiting pertains to the animal in the human. Okay, so that is the beast within us then that is not the higher component of our psyche. And it creates affectionate bonds, and it creates intimate bonds, and we may end up clinging to things. We may end up hurting inside from this type of bonds. Okay, so the best attitude, the most commendable attitude, is to actually look away. Okay, so you look away when that happens, when that sort of a message is sent to you, when you're being attacked by these images, you look away as a man. And as a woman, it is commendable that you don't exhibit as such, though you do feel that need. As a woman feels that need, a very, very real need to exhibit. Well, you don't give in to that particular need. Section 4, what is marriage? The short answer to this is marriage is anything of an intimate nature. So you had intimate relationships, you're married, basically. That is the very short answer. But let me give you the ethics of marriage first. So the ethics, the rule of marriage, the ethics for marriage is you don't bring in a third party. Okay, so no third wheels, no third party, and everything will be blissful. Okay, you are going to taste the honey in this relationship, provided that you don't bring the third person in. Okay, so that is marriage. That is the ethics of marriage. And in no way you should bring another person in, even in your wildest fantasies, even fantasizing about it, even thinking about it. So thinking about having relations with another person, well, that's misconduct. You shouldn't do this when being married. Okay, so stick to this. Stick to these ethics. It's very simple, very plain. You don't bring a third person in. You will be happy in your marriage. Okay, so what is marriage? Well, basically, you're having an intimate relationship with somebody else. You are automatically developing a bond, and that bond is marriage-like. That is what marriage is. So when you're having relations, you are considered to be married, okay? And you do hold a responsibility towards the other person. You hold a responsibility towards their well-being and their safety, okay? So that's why sometimes you can't sleep well at night. That's because you had intercourse with somebody and basically that person is phoning you. Okay, so that's why we have phones. Some genius discovered that when we think about somebody, we feel like talking to them, so they invented phones. That person was a true genius. So the person that you had intercourse with is giving you a call, metaphorically speaking. And so they wake you up in the middle of the night. So that's why you have nightmares, you don't sleep well, or you feel a burnout, or things like that. Okay, so that's because you had intercourse outside the marriage relationship. Okay, so these things are sacred, guys. These things are sacred and sensitive. Okay, and you should treat them accordingly. Testosterone. What is testosterone? Section 5, last section. So what is testosterone? Testosterone is part of the human hormonal apparatus. It is, so people think, some people wish to say that it has to do with aggression and violence and aggressivity. I guess that's far from being correct. It has to do with the strength that we have within ourselves. But okay, I'll make this brief. I mentioned I have witnessed myself a shit stirrer, so I would call that person a shit stirrer. It was an old lady that was dwelling in witchcraft, I guess. She blamed testosterone, and she was speaking to a younger guy, and she was talking about testosterone as being bad. Okay, so it's this kind of speech that they are fostering. Some people are fostering this type of speech. Testosterone is nothing that's of a taboo nature, and it's certainly not about aggression and violence. Okay, so that's a normal part of the human hormonal apparatus. Okay, so I guess it is a hybrid between reality and fantasy. It is a manner of speech, and well, it is disinformation. It is something that pertains to the post-truth era that we inhabit. Okay, so we inhabit a post-truth era, and well, I guess mystifications do happen all of the time, and well, we should be rational enough, and we should keep ourselves informed on things such that we aren't influenced by these mystifications.